The United States has always grappled with its identity. From its inception, the nation has been a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and beliefs, each contributing to the complex tapestry that defines America. This diversity, while a source of strength, has also been a source of tension and conflict. Is it a shining city on a hill, a beacon of hope for the world? This idealized vision of America has inspired countless individuals both within and beyond its borders. The promise of freedom, opportunity, and democracy has drawn people from all corners of the globe, seeking a better life. Or is it a nation grappling with deep-seated divisions, struggling to live up to its own ideals? The reality of America is often far more complex and challenging than the dream. Social, economic, and racial inequalities have persisted, leading to periods of intense strife and discord. By 2015, this tension had reached a fever pitch. The nation was at a crossroads, with many feeling disillusioned by the political establishment. The economic recovery from the Great Recession was uneven, leaving many Americans feeling left behind. Economic anxiety gripped the nation. Jobs were scarce in many regions, and the cost of living continued to rise. For many, the American dream seemed increasingly out of reach, leading to a pervasive sense of frustration and hopelessness. Political polarization deepened the chasm between left and right. The political discourse became more vitriolic, with each side viewing the other as an existential threat to the nation's future. Compromise and collaboration seemed like relics of a bygone era. Into this volatile mix stepped Donald J. Trump, a brash billionaire who promised to upend the status quo and make America great again. His message was clear: the system was rigged, and he was the outsider who could fix it. Trump's rhetoric resonated with a segment of the population who felt unheard and unseen. These individuals believed that the political elite had ignored their needs and concerns for too long. They saw in Trump a champion who spoke their language and understood their struggles. They yearned for a return to a bygone era of American dominance, a time when their values seemed unchallenged, and their way of life felt secure. This nostalgia for the past was a powerful force, driving many to support Trump's vision of a restored America. These individuals, many of whom identified as evangelical Christians, saw in Trump a potential savior, a leader who could restore their vision of America. For them, Trump's promises were not just political, they were deeply personal and spiritual. This burgeoning belief in Trump as a messianic figure, while unsettling to many, was not entirely surprising. Throughout history, people have often turned to charismatic leaders during times of crisis, seeking someone who could provide clear answers and strong leadership. The United States has a long and complicated history with the idea of chosenness, of being a nation uniquely favored by God. This belief has shaped the nation's identity and influenced its politics, often leading to a sense of American exceptionalism. This belief, deeply embedded in the national psyche, created fertile ground for the emergence of a political figure who could be perceived as divinely ordained. In Trump, many saw a leader who could fulfill this role, promising to restore America's greatness and reaffirm its place in the world. Trump, despite his personal history and unorthodox approach to politics, proved to be a master of exploiting these deep-seated longings. He spoke directly to the anxieties of his base, promising to restore their lost status and return America to its former glory. His campaign rallies became revival-like gatherings, fueled by fervent chants of USA, USA, and promises of a return to greatness. Trump's message transcended traditional political discourse. He didn't just offer policy solutions, he offered a vision, a narrative of redemption that resonated deeply with his supporters. He painted a picture of a nation under siege, beset by enemies both foreign and domestic. He cast himself as the lone warrior, the only one who could vanquish the forces of darkness and lead America back to the promised land. This language of salvation, of a chosen leader destined to deliver his people from peril, resonated particularly strongly with evangelical Christians. For a group steeped in the language of prophecy and divine intervention, Trump's rise to power seemed almost preordained, a sign that God was at work in the world. The evangelical embrace of Trump was swift and, to many observers, perplexing. It seemed almost paradoxical that a group so deeply rooted in Christian values would rally behind a figure whose life and actions often appeared to contradict those very principles. This unexpected alliance left many political analysts and commentators scratching their heads, trying to decipher the underlying reasons for such fervent support. Here was a man who seemed to embody the antithesis of Christian values, a thrice-married businessman with a history of adultery, questionable business dealings, and a penchant for inflammatory rhetoric. His public persona was marked by brashness and a seeming disregard for the humility and compassion often associated with Christian teachings. Yet, despite these apparent contradictions, his appeal to a significant portion of the evangelical community was undeniable. Yet, a significant portion of white evangelicals flocked to his banner, seeing in him a flawed but ultimately chosen instrument of God's will. They believed that, despite his imperfections, Trump was the leader who could advance their religious and political goals. This belief was not just about policy, but also about a deeper, almost spiritual conviction that Trump was part of a divine plan. Several factors contributed to this unlikely alliance. The political landscape at the time was ripe for a figure like Trump to emerge, someone who could tap into the frustrations and aspirations of a disillusioned electorate. Evangelicals in particular felt that their voices were not being heard, and that their values were under siege in an increasingly secular society. Evangelicals, long a powerful force in American politics, had grown increasingly disillusioned with the Republican establishment, which they viewed as insufficiently committed to their social agenda. They felt betrayed by politicians who promised much but delivered little in terms of advancing conservative values. This sense of betrayal created a vacuum that Trump was quick to fill with his bold promises and unorthodox approach. Trump, despite his personal failings, promised to champion their causes, appointing conservative judges, restricting abortion access, and defending religious liberty. His commitment to these issues was seen as unwavering, and his actions in office reinforced this perception. By appointing judges who aligned with evangelical values and taking a strong stance on issues like abortion, Trump solidified his support among this key demographic. Moreover, Trump's message of American exceptionalism, his promise to restore the nation to its former glory, aligned perfectly with the premillennialist theology embraced by many evangelicals. This theology, which anticipates a period of tribulation followed by Christ's return, resonated with Trump's rhetoric of a nation in decline that needed strong, decisive leadership to reclaim its greatness. This belief system posits that the world is in a state of decline, hurtling towards a final battle between good and evil. For many evangelicals, Trump's presidency was seen as a crucial moment in this cosmic struggle, a time when their values and beliefs were under direct attack and needed a champion to defend them. In this apocalyptic narrative, Trump's role as a strong leader willing to confront America's enemies took on a near messianic significance. His willingness to challenge the status quo and take bold actions was seen as evidence of his divine appointment. For his evangelical supporters, Trump was not just a political leader, but a pivotal figure in a larger spiritual battle for the soul of the nation. This blurring of the lines between politics and prophecy had profound implications. It wasn't just a merging of two distinct realms, it was a fusion that had the potential to reshape the very fabric of society. When political leaders are seen as divinely appointed, their actions and policies are often viewed through a lens of religious fervor, making it difficult to separate faith from governance. If Trump was indeed God's chosen instrument, then opposition to his presidency was not just a matter of political disagreement, it was tantamount to defying God's will. This belief created a scenario where political loyalty was equated with religious devotion, and any dissent was seen as heretical. The implications of this are far-reaching, affecting not just political discourse, but also the social cohesion of the nation. This belief, embraced by some of Trump's most ardent supporters, served to further entrench divisions and undermine democratic norms. The idea that a political leader is above reproach because they are divinely chosen creates an environment where critical debate is stifled. It polarizes the electorate, making compromise and dialogue increasingly difficult. The danger of imbuing a political leader with divine authority is that it places them beyond reproach, above the law, and accountable only to God. This can lead to a dangerous erosion of the checks and balances that are essential for a functioning democracy. When leaders are seen as infallible, their decisions are less likely to be questioned, and their power becomes more concentrated. It creates an environment where dissent is stifled, and critical thinking is replaced by blind faith. In such a climate, the voices of opposition are not just ignored, they are actively silenced. This stifling of dissent can lead to a culture of fear, where people are afraid to speak out against the leader or their policies. In such a climate, the very foundations of a democratic society, built on the principles of accountability and the rule of law, are imperiled. The erosion of these principles can lead to a breakdown in the social contract, where the governed no longer feel that their leaders are acting in their best interests. This can result in increased social unrest and a loss of faith in democratic institutions. The elevation of Trump to messianic status also raised serious questions about the role of prophecy in the public square. When religious prophecy is used to justify political actions, it blurs the line between church and state, leading to potential conflicts of interest and ethical dilemmas. This can undermine the secular nature of the government and lead to policies that favor one religious group over others. While the interpretation of prophecy has always been a subject of debate within religious circles, its intrusion into the political realm raises profound concerns about the separation of church and state. The founding fathers of the United States envisioned a nation where religion and government operated independently, ensuring that no single faith could dominate the political landscape. The mingling of prophecy and politics threatens this delicate balance, and the potential for religious zealotry to influence public policy. When policy decisions are driven by religious fervor rather than rational debate and empirical evidence, it can lead to laws that are not in the best interest of all citizens. This can further divide the nation and create an environment where only those who share the dominant religious views feel represented.